Problem 66. Chicago-style pizza sells 13 slices every 20 minutes on average. How many slices would they expect to sell in 7 hours? So we can set up a proportion. 13 slices in 20 minutes. Okay, 13 slices in 20 minutes. And we want to know how many slices they would expect to sell in 7 hours. Well, we can only use the units that we've already used. So we can only use slices and minutes. We have X slices because we don't know how many slices. We have to use minutes. We can't use hours. So we just convert. 60 minutes in 1 hour times 7 hours would give me 420 minutes. 420 minutes. I'm going to cross multiply here. So I have 20x is equal to 420 times 13. Okay, so I can multiply that out, but I know that I'm going to have to divide it by 20. So let's say I didn't have my calculator handy, and I wanted to look at any way that I could make a shortcut here. Well, 420 times 13 is just a single number. So we could say, how many times does 20 go into 420? Well, 420 is 20 times what? 100 is 20 times 5. So there's 20 of those and then one more. So it's 20 times 21. And then we have this times 13 as well. Over 20. Our 20s cancel out. And x equals 21 times 13. What is 21 times 13? We can calculate that. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. So 3 plus 0 is 3. 6 plus 1 is 7. And then 2 plus 0 is 2. So x is equal to 273 slices. Now we could have just put this in the calculator. We could have said 420 times 13 is equal to 5,460 and then divided that by 20. We get the same thing, 273. I was just showing that you can break 420 down into 20 times 21, and that can be helpful if you don't have a calculator handy. Okay, Michael was looking at his comic book collection. He noticed that he had 11 more Batman comics than Superman. If Michael has 39 Batman and Superman comic books, how many Superman comic books does he have? So we can say he has 11 more Batman comics than Superman. So Batman is equal to Superman plus 11. He has 11 more Batman comics than Superman comics. He has 39 Batman and Superman comics. So 39 is equal to Batman plus Superman. Once again, there are a number of ways that I could solve this. Let's see what it asks. It asks how many Superman comics he has. We can solve for both, but it specifically asks for Superman. Okay, one way we could solve this is say, well, this is already set equal to B. I could put in S plus 11 in for B. So I could say 39 is equal to S plus 11, because that represents the number of Batman comic books, and plus S. So 39 would equal S plus S is 2S plus 11. I'm going to subtract 11 from each side, and 2S is equal to 28. Now I divide each side by 2, and S would equal 14. So I would know that he had 14 Superman comic books. Now if I wanted to find his Batman, I could easily plug that in. B is equal to S plus 11. So that means B is equal to 14 plus 11. B is equal to 25. And then we know that 25 plus 14 is in fact 39. Once again, the problem asked for the number of Superman comics. So he has 14 Superman comics. 68. Steve averaged 87% on the first 4 science tests. What is the minimum score he needs on the 5th test to raise his average to a 90%? Well, let's look at this. He had 4 tests, and those averaged to be an 87%. So we could say 87 plus 87 plus 87 plus 87. 4 tests. Now he's going to have a 5th test, which is his X. And we want those to average together. So we have to divide it by 5 and equal 90%. He wants to get a 90%. So 87 times 4 would be the total of his first 4 tests. We're not saying that he necessarily got an 87 on every test, but we know that his average is 87, and that average is of 4 tests. So we wouldn't just add 87 to X. We have to have it worth 4 of the tests, whereas X is only worth 1. So that's 348 plus X. So like I said, we don't know that he got an 87 on each one of his tests, but we do know that his average is an 87. So that means his total on those 4 tests is 348. Now, we've divided this by 5. We want to undo that. So we need to multiply both sides by 5. So that says 348 plus X is equal to 9 times 5 is going to give me 9 times 5 is 45, and then I put my 0 off. So I'm going to subtract 348 from each side. Okay, 450. I don't need a calculator for this. You should not need a calculator for this. You should be able to do this without a calculator. Gives me 102. Checking our answer. We know that 348 plus 100 is 448. Plus 2 would be 450. So that would say that X equals 102. So he would technically need a 102 on his last test to achieve a solid 90%. Now, if we're saying how could he round up to a 90%, let's see if he could round up to a 90% without getting over 100%. Let's say his teacher doesn't give extra credit. So the max that he could get would be 100. So let's see what his average would be. His average, if he obtained 100, would be 348 plus 100 over 5. What would that equal? Well, 348 plus 100 would be 448. We're going to divide that by 5. What is 448 divided by 5? That's an 89.6. 89.6%. So if he obtained 100 on the test, he would have an 89.6 in the class. To obtain a solid 90%, he would have to obtain 102 on the test. Okay, problem 69. Find the value of the expression quantity x minus y squared when x is 5 and y is negative 3. So we're going to plug this in. X is 5, y is negative 3. We've got to square it. Well, we know that minus a negative is a plus, so that's 5 plus 3 squared. Well, 5 plus 3 is 8, and to square something just means to multiply it by itself, so 8 times 8 is 64. Our answer is 64. And then the very last problem here on part 1, we have a proportion. We need to solve it. In order to solve this proportion, we must cross multiply. So that gives us 2 times the quantity 2x plus 1 is equal to 9 times the quantity 3x plus 4. This requires distribution. So you draw in your arrows and you distribute the values. So 2 times 2 is 4, 4x, because it's 2 times 2x, and 2 times positive 1 is positive 2. 9 times 3x is 27x. 9 times 4 is 36. We want to combine all of our variables on one side, so we're going to subtract 4x from each side. We have 2 equals 23x plus 36. Now we need to subtract 36 from each side. We have 23x equals 2 minus 36 is negative 34. So now we need to divide both sides by 23, and x is equal to negative 1. 23 goes in there once, and what's left over? There is 11 over 23 left over. So that would be approximately negative 1.5. Approximate.